We may go into closed session. If we did, it would be under, I will cite the subsection. The time, 6:03?
Got it.
Okay. All members are present.
First thing, go through the sheet of paper on your desk, or in front of you, on the table in front of you. These are the goals, measurable goals that TEA is coming out with that we have to have in relation to the reading, math, and CCMR. And you asked for proposed goals that Dr. Vu would present for you, so she created these goals with measurements. These don't have to be finalized until May 1st.
The board meeting in May.
May's board meeting. So that way you can look through them and kind of see if these are aligned with what you're thinking. These are those goals. We're looking at about a 1% over a 4-year, it's a 4-year, 5-year period that we have to track on the template. And that's about a 1% growth each year at that point. Okay. And then it gives you the details on the next page that are specific quantifiable goals, measurable goals. Each goal needs to contain a baseline, current state, target, future state, the population which the student will be impacted, and deadline, month, and year by which the current state will equal the future state. Annual targets must be included for each goal in addition to the 5-year deadline target. And adopting board outcome goals and progress measures for each goal creates alignment with each plan. And we talked about the yearly measurement has to be aligned with STAR testing. And these numbers are based off of STAR percentages.
Pull it from the paper, which I presented last month.
And then how we monitor that will be the MAPS progress. Anything else you want to add to that, or is that about
So
it?
these goals stay true to the recommendation to focus on attainable goals rather than reach goals that came from TA. With an aim to improve 1 to 2% per year over the next 4 years. Since KISD is already several percentage points higher than the state in these areas, the state and region averages, these goals seem reasonable and aligned with the state's recommendations.
Any questions on those?
Reasonable, I understand. Is it enough of a target? I mean, is it lofty enough to move us in the right direction? I mean, 1% a year, that may be a massive increase, but is it lofty enough to lead the district where we want to go?
So that is clearly debatable, right? This is the goal as recommended by the state, and thinking about what can we bring to you to say we are making progress in these areas, we're doing all these things. Shoot for the moon, land in the stars sometimes. In this particular case, the goal is to come to you every year and say, not only did we meet it, but we exceeded it. In some of the cases, so for example, thinking about 3rd grade students, that's going to require a vertically aligned effort, pre-K through 3, right? So when you think about the first year, we're going to be building the program from the ground up and moving us forward. And so a lot of times in that particular case, you make slow progress, the J curve, you make slow progress. Sometimes you regress when we're trying new things and you're experiencing the challenges that come with new, but then, you can make exponential progress later. I am open to.
I'll say that when we looked at these originally in the summer, we felt like we'd set them possibly too lofty, and then we were trying to rein it back a little bit. So this was basically just off the recommendations that she's come across with other districts.
So in terms of implementing the curriculum to accomplish that, this is the first year you're beginning to implement that curriculum, right? Starting to try to align it and do everything, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I can understand maybe 1 year, we may not get one.
These are 5-year targets.
I understand, but if you look at 5 years out and said, okay, can we sit at 54 next year and 54 the year after? And then,
keep in mind, this is meets grade level, so this is not passing on the STAR.
Right.
This is the state's recommendation that they're meets grade level or above.
Right.
So looking at 54%, our passing average in 3rd grade reading is well above that. This is, it's based on a different target, if that makes a difference for you.
slightly higher target than just passing.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
But looking at it again, we say in 5 years we'll hit it, so next year if you come back to us and said, we're at 54%, and all our MAPS testing says we're making progress, that's a great thing.
Sure.
If we're 54% and our MAPS testing says we've declined a little bit, well, that's probably not too bad either, because we're still at 54%.
Right.
So how do we measure success in those two scenarios for next year, looking at we met our goal? I mean, because we're all supposed to have a one-year target. What are we gonna do next year, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just wanna make certain that we've set a target that, the goal, all of them should read at X level, all of them.
So I'm gonna remind you that this is annually measured through STAR testing. You
Right.
wanna put everything on one test for 1 year?
I don't want to, but I'm willing to say we failed to meet that goal, but we have maps to say we have performance. That's why I'm not gonna be bothered by the fact we didn't meet the start point if you can show me our kids we're making headway on an objective growth test.
Sure. These goals are specific to HB3 and meeting the requirements for HB3. So
Right.
that's one of the things that we talked about earlier. We'll have our board goals, our district goals that may look a little bit different.
And that's what Holly's gonna bring in is the other district goals that are gonna be similar to these, but more aligned to what our district vision is, so. These are just compliance for the state.
And I will say, we're bringing them to you now so that you can think about them, reflect on them, and come back. They don't have to be adopted until later, and so per your request, we wanted to give you something to think about.
Good.
Just research on.
So we just want to, I think, I'm trying to hear what you're saying, John. Understand, so maybe our annual indicators
Yeah,
would
so
be
for
our,
this particular program, we have to look at third grade math and reading star scores. That's from TA. For CCMR, we can look at the points that we get for accountability. You can look at CCMR bonuses. Dr. Devlin we worked together, decided on the points. Keeping in mind that the CCMR numbers are behind, right? So they're looking at data from 2 years ago. Yeah. I'm really open to feedback. This is your decision to make. So if that's something that you would like me to revisit, I'm happy to do that.
I'm trying to clarify John's concern. Are you thinking that maybe we have, this is the goal, but sub to that, we would talk about tracking it through our MAPS data and testing data to maintain,
Are you saying this is
assure
too
that we're
low?
maintaining our
Yeah,
trend
too
line?
low or too high?
We want, how,
Too low. I mean, I'm just perceiving it as, a goal is, if you don't push a kid to run, 9.5, he'll run 10s. I mean, it's one of those things that you learn, the expectations have to be there. And I don't have a problem with a lower goal as long as, because it's 5 years out, we're satisfied with 54, 54, 54. And we might have 54, 54, 54 because we have transition in curriculum. We might have all those things happening. I just want to make sure that whatever target we set, if we don't meet it, but we are making progress, regardless of what that is, we can justify where we are. As long as those two things dovetail. Again, to me, I think if you set a high goal and say, we didn't get 54, but we have improvement. Okay, that's a positive, that's not a negative. So for me, I just think that if, that's what the state says, well, fine, the state says get Cs. Well, that's not what our district should be.
we want to be stretching, in other words.
I think we want to try and achieve more.
Is this a stretch?
Is this a stretch?
Are we stretching on these goals?
No, they're reasonable. One thing to keep in mind is that this is based on student achievement numbers. So if we had growth, if we had a high mobility rate, which our mobility rate is rising, right? We get kids who come into the high school who are going to take the test. They come in October or December sometimes, and if they're here for October snapshot, we'll say they take the test. All we can do is make sure that they make progress when they're with us. So with something like this, we're keeping in mind that these aren't necessarily going to be students who are with us pre-K through 10th grade when they take the EOC. So it accounts for that. It's another part of it is that
What's our percentage of mobility right now?
it's a great question. I can't answer off the top of my head. I can look it up.
Okay, the literacy one, Kind of like to echo what John's saying, it's 58, so we're saying in 5 years, we're okay with 42% of the kids not meeting grade level. Realizing
You're
that
saying
you're never,
that's the standard of the state, not what we,
but if we adopt these goals, we're saying we agree with that.
we're saying that we're
minimum.
gonna meet the state requirement.
We can always exceed the goals.
I think we should stretch, though. I mean, it will help us pat ourselves on the back if we hit, but I agree with what John's saying, is that, if you.
Yeah, I'm gonna reiterate that this is on STAR testing, and it's one test on one day.
Right.
And, I don't put a whole lot of stock into the STAR test.
No,
I
I
put more in
don't
what
think
we're
any
doing in
of
the
us do either,
classrooms and in
Chad.
our other measurements. That's why I think you set reasonable, realistic goals, and you don't sit there and try to push it to where if you're not meeting them, you look like you're.
So since we don't have to
failed.
adopt these today, what if we, table this and circle back? And I'll do some more research, we
Because we're
can do some
losing our
more
time
talking.
with Holly.
That's fine, that's fine. I didn't mean to create a
Yeah.
whirlwind.
It
That would
sounds
just
like-
create a whirlwind.
sounds
All
like
for
we're
stretching.
passionate
I
about
think
this
we
issue,
are,
so let's
all of us
table
are
it
on board
and
with that, John.
think about it.
And we can, like I said, these are just drafts, so this is not.
It's good.
the final
It's
form,
good.
It's just a start.
It's good.
Okay. How about our other vote?
Hi y'all, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Okay, so y'all know I'm just an educational consultant.
Holly, this is Julie. You
Hi,
haven't met her
Julie.
yet.
I was gonna introduce myself later. Nice to meet you. Can y'all take one and pass
Sure
it down?
can.
We're gonna see how your school skills still are with that. I'm a longtime educator, have experience, but I'm a consultant, and so I feel like part of that is that I don't have to always play nice. I can just say what I wanna say, and y'all can say, yeah, Holly, that's okay, or what are you talking about? Go away. So, I brought this to you last time, and I didn't give you a copy of it, and I really meant to, but I think everything, again, always goes back to a process. And so this is the process that I shared with you last time. I put yellow up there. That's what the board in that planning process, what the board's role is. It's not yellow on your sheet of paper. It's white on your sheet of paper, yellow up here. So tonight, I was looking at the guiding statements part of it, and it doesn't have to be called guiding statements. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but guiding statement kind of fits because it's the statements that are going to guide your work for the next 5 years. I put up here, and I put up here House Bill 3, and then your Excellence 2025. And this is really uncomfortable for y'all have to look that way. I'm sorry.
You're all right.
Okay. The left side is compliance, and my suggestion to you is just to get it done, approve it, get it into the system, and then there you go. The right-hand side is, I think, the work that y'all decide is what's best for the district. And then it has a guiding statement, the dashboard, the district scorecard, which is a lag measure, and then the dashboard, which are lead measures. The House Bill 3 has to be written by the state in terms of SMART goals.
So what you're saying is, what we were just talking about, just
do it.
just leave it like the state says and go with it, but make ours where we're accountable over there.
Make it the stretch. Make her come to you and say, we can get here. It's going to be a stretch, but you should expect that of us. Push that. Get that out of the way. Just get it done. That's what the state says you have to do. But over here, so like, you know, I believe that third grade reading is key. I mean, there's so many indicators that kids can't read by the third grade. There's bad things that happen. So I really do believe that you want them to read on level or higher, and you want them to remain on level or higher throughout their career in Kennedale ISD, right?
Right, as many of them as possible, not
And
necessarily
I
54%.
put that or higher, because I don't want, you don't want parents to say, you just want my kid to read on level. No, we want them to read above level. And then the mathematics one, it has to be based upon third grade. I would not do it about third grade. I look at when you get to high school, it's specialized math. All the foundational math is done through the 8th grade. So you can either say we want them to demonstrate Algebra 1 because it is the gateway course, or you can say you want kids to demonstrate proficiency of all the standards, of all the foundational skills, which is 8th grade. I don't have a feeling one way or the other whether it's 8th grade math or whether it's Algebra 1.
We tried to look at this as our reading focuses on elementary, the math at the junior high, by the junior high level, and then the CCMR by the time they're graduating high school at the high school level, so that we have a measurement at each level, educational level.
Yeah, in the CCMR, you're gonna have AP, you're gonna have dual credit, you're gonna have certificates, license, you're gonna have military, you're gonna have whatever a student wants to pursue, they'll be able to demonstrate it to that CCMR. So that's my suggestion to you, is just get that other thing done. You're gonna put it into a system. I don't really know who's gonna monitor it at TEA, but it's just a compliance. Get it done, and then put your work and your stretch and your hold people accountable with your guidance statements. That's my thought. Sticking to it.
And these are the guiding statements, is that what you're saying here?
Those are words. Those are my words that I put up there for you. It doesn't have to be them. That's
Right, but that's, you're saying
Yes.
falls under guiding
I would
statements.
take literacy, math, and CCMR off, and I would say number 1, students really on level or higher and remain on level or higher. I'd say the math, and then the students will graduate career, college, and military readiness. Now, the difference with that with the SMART goal is it doesn't have the time and by what percentage and all of that, but you'll have all of that on your scorecard. So
Right.
I think I made, no, I'm gonna put it down to here. I did a draft scorecard for y'all. It's right there. And I looked at your webpage, this may be the wrong grouping, but on a scorecard where you have your Excellence 2025, curriculum instruction, student support, human resources, facilities and operations, and then financial services. So, but, oh gosh, you really can't see that.
We can pick different categories for those
Yeah.
as well in our dashboard. So we talked about trying to create a dashboard to help with the monitoring.
I'm gonna make it bigger.
Movie screen.
Do y'all feel, should I brought popcorn? So, oh gosh, you can't even see that. Let me go a little higher. You can see it okay? There, is that better? So do you see that it would be percentage of students reading on level or higher, and then it'd be a 3rd grade measure? And so and I would use the master's level, and that's what the 5-year goal may be 75. I don't know. Stretch it. And then baseline would be this year's STAR data. Or if you want to use, what are y'all using for your PK2?
NAP and TPRI. We just got a new email from TA today.
Okay.
So
you may do 2nd grade, and you may have 3rd grade up there too. And then percentage of students mastery, and then, but this is where you put it out there, you hold accountable, it's at the end. This is what we say is important in Kennedale ISD. Does that make sense at all?
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I did curriculum and instruction, and I don't know what you would say, but let me show you some other examples.
Quick question now, do we have any previous data that we can compare this to we're starting from here and forward?
We can look at STAR data.
Okay,
And then we'll have our baseline data from MAP in K8 this year.
okay.
You have to remember, every year is a different group of
Right.
students.
So 8th grade is the
Yeah.
same group of
No,
kids.
my wife teaches 3rd grade, and we know the
With
difference.
different friends and.
And my two kids when they went through, their different classes were totally different. My son's class, I thought was a really smart class, but they didn't have as many A's and B's. My daughter's class,
See how they still progress.
I didn't think it was as sharp, but their grade level or grade average was a lot bigger as far as top 10% or being able to get into
So
the
let
top 10.
me show you this, some examples. If you did student support, you had counseling and technology in there, but I believe you have to listen and learn every year to at least 3 different groups: your staff, your students, and your parents. You need to give a survey, an annual survey to those, and you take one benchmark question out of it. The one that's the best for parents that you can compare national data to with the Gallup is what grade do you give our school, and you usually, it's the percentage that give you an A or B that are up there. But I think that if you're not doing that, you're not reporting that, then you're not providing a way for you listening to teachers and students. I think the student needs to be, what are y'all talking in the school? 6 or 7? 7 through 12. You can get 6th graders can go in there and fill out something, but have a way that they report to you how satisfied or engaged they are. And then teacher, but you can put teacher retention rate. But what are the most, with regard to human resources, what are the most important measures to y'all that you want them to report to you annually, and then give you formative measures along the year through a dashboard? And then I have facilities and operation, and then financial services down here. But that's, the topics don't have to be like that. That was just me today looking at your website and trying to put together, but it may totally not be how you have things organized or how you want to group.
When you say form, I love the idea of the survey. I mean, I think how they feel and is important. When you say formative, so would you have like a fall survey and a spring survey to compare? Or
you could, or you could do just a spring, and I do not recommend you do it in May. I made that big mistake. Big mistake to do it in May. You do it in March, April. Right after spring break is a great time to do it. But
I think you do it at least annually, but consistent times.
you have to do it at the same time annually, so you're measuring from 1 year. But formative, you can do different things. You may measure attendance rate. You may measure, you can do just some kind of, just the one question, put it out with a SurveyMonkey one question, how are we doing? Compared, you can, do a, it's a dipstick in, are we on track?
What about past students? Does anybody, is it concerned with?
I've never seen anyone do a satisfaction. Most of the time, they might either be, hopefully not a parent, they might be a parent though, or just a community member then.
Okay.
And when you
A lot of what's tracking now is like with your CCMR, like your kids who've gone on to college.
Right.
So you're trying to track them in that manner.
Okay, that's the part I was pointing about. Did what we're providing give them a good foundation for college or for military or whatever?
So again, the blue would mean you meet or exceed that 5-year goal. And then if you get blue in an area, and if when you do this first year, if there's too many blue, then you would need to go to your superintendent and say, shame on us, we set these way too low, rethink them. The very first year you do things, there might be, I don't know that there could be red, hopefully not more than 1 or 2, but there will be lots of yellow. So it's meets or exceeds 5-year goal. Green is you meet your annual target. Yellow, you did not meet your annual target, but progress is noted, improvement plan is suggested. And red, again, that danger, you did not meet your annual target with no progress, improvement plan required. So that's just what a scorecard would look like.
Is it realistic that we try to do all of them in 1 year, or is it more realistic to pick the 1 or 2 important ones and roll them out? And
I'd put them all up. I'd put your most important 3 to 4 measures per each one of those areas.
so all areas with just maybe less measures.
That way you're measuring all of them from the same starting
Each
point.
department is kind of
Well,
working towards their goal.
you have to say what measures are critical for the district that you have control over. Because if you can look at that on that sheet, look at the blue, there is red, it's the department, and they're doing the exact same thing where they're going to go dive much deeper. So like financially, they're probably just going to have, I'm going to guess 3 of them. I'm going to guess that you're going to want to know how many months of fund balance you have with a target of 3. Maybe. You're going to want to know to make sure that your expenditures did not exceed your revenue, budgeted, all that stuff. and you're gonna wanna make sure that you have all, whatever you're supposed to have with first grade. Are those kind of three important, critical things for this? He may pick something different, but,
We have to stretch him a little.
Anyway, that's just how it looks, but the department, when he's gonna look at a whole lot more things on his departmental scorecard. It's just, it cascades down. I would not recommend, the very first year you do it, have a district scorecard and have some departments, and maybe, it would be tough the first year to roll it down to campuses until you got all the kinks out and y'all know what you're doing, and so that's where I would wait to roll out.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about is classroom walkthroughs and, you know, making sure that we are getting that instructional leadership developing. So that could be a target measurement for our campuses, is the amount of walkthroughs that are being done monthly.
Yep.
That to me is realistic.
So I showed y'all that, and I showed you that, how it could be, again, not knowing how y'all operate day to day. I don't know that that's correct. So then I'm gonna take you back, because you have some really good goals and targets. I think some of them are very hard to measure. So if you wanted those three, and I know that you wanted maybe I don't know if you wanted a couple more, my recommendation might be on your strategic plan, on your Excellence 2025, to leave it to student outcomes. That's your main thing. It's really your one thing. And then you might have a superintendent goals or other things on some other areas that you want him to work on.
Mhm.
You don't have to have it that way.
Say that one more time.
Okay, so on Excellence 2025, your guiding statements, my recommendation would it to be all student outcomes. And then I know that last time y'all talked about community targets, community involvement, partnerships, and teacher staff involvement, engagement. I don't know that might be something that's better for a superintendent target for a year.
As opposed to the district.
Right.
And I really wonder how you're gonna gauge that. You know, that's where I come back to, is it measurable?
So I don't know. I mean, we can work on phrasing it. My recommendation would be that you leave all your guiding statements student outcome based. And again, can I see that draft? Can I see this? No, this right here.
Our current.
Right, so that's, yeah, okay.
So those
that's
are what
what
we
we
currently
want.
Let me tell you, you put out your vision, your Excellence 2025, and you've got your mission, your vision, your values, and your belief statements, and then you have your guiding statements. Okay. Let me tell you the difference. The percentage of third grade students that achieve meets grade level on the above star will increase from 54 to 58% by June 2024. Versus our students read on level or higher by third grade and remain on level or higher throughout their career at Kennedale KISD. If I'm a parent, if I'm a staff member, even if I'm a kid, that's why I recommend not having a SMART goal as your guiding statement. Okay, let me see what else.
So there's two, the goals that we have to comply with have to be SMART
Have to be
goals,
SMART,
which is
Yeah.
what Julie you proposed with the other. What we're doing with this dashboard, these are not SMART goals, but they are measurable. You know, but we just have to set things to
It
measure.
will be totally,
The dashboard's a SMART goal. The
Yeah.
guiding statements aren't necessarily a
Right.
SMART goal.
right, yes.
Yeah.
So, we talked about mission, vision, and values. And then the last thing is that for you guys, do you want more than 3? 4 or 5? I mean, this is where every single time you come, every time you meet,
What they do in
this
outside
should be
class.
up there front and center. This is what we're working on. In Kennedale ISD, this is what we consider to be really important. All our staff, everyone.
Could you remind us the other two that y'all had in Mansfield?
It was students will be involved in extracurricular.
Right, I think
Oh, yeah,
that
'cause
is
you
important.
did a curricular,
I think we need to have
extracurricular.
some comment about it,
Yes.
whether, I mean, whether or not.
I knew
it's-
I liked them, but I couldn't exactly remember. Okay, and then you had one more.
And then, well, the last one is that when we did all of the environmental scan with the community and staff and parents, I mean, we were right next to Grand Prairie ISD, who has every choice imaginable. And so we got that our parents wanted choice for kids. And so it was parents or students will have choice in educational, will have opportunities for educational choice. So that was the 5th.
But we don't
Yeah.
have, you could choose Delaney or Patterson, that'd be the only choice you would
I
have.
mean, that one doesn't,
I don't wanna
but
get that choice either.
We don't, yeah, Mansfield's got a lot more.
That's where you
choices.
live.
Yeah.
So, are y'all good with the three, what you're calling guiding statements, but goals, you know, that we're proposing?
No,
here?
I would like to add something with extracurricular.
I do too.
I mean, that's a whole
Three
other
for
part of
sure,
their
which are
life.
student
Yeah.
outcome based, but then there was a lot of discussion last time, that's kind of where we need to, we got about 30 minutes before the next meeting starts to try to start gearing towards what the other goal or goals you would want to be. We talked about family engage or parent engagement, you know, I don't know what we do to sit there and measure that. The other was to have, you know, to me, an important one is student engagement. You know, that also, to me, deals with student outcomes. But
Right.
once again, how do you measure student engagement? You know, so we have to sit there and really kind of factor that in.
I think that fourth one does, though.
I think it does, too.
Extracurricular activities. If I enjoy my school, I want to be here to do other things outside the classroom.
Now, at what point are you gonna measure that, though?
It's
Enjoying
really it's
participation,
really easy, and I'm gonna tell you, I told you that I only wanted to do it secondary because that's what we provided. And someone much smarter than me said, no, we're gonna do it elementary, K through 12. And so once a year you take a survey and people have to turn in
How many participating?
how many, I mean, in Kennedale High School, how many of the kids, not duplicated numbers, but kid. Well, this kid can be in band and choir and football, but he only counts as one. So it's a percentage of your kids that are involved in extracurricular activities.
I like that, I like that. I think
At the lower grades, we don't have a school-sponsored.
Well, they start making them.
You have
And
chess
one thing that we
club,
have
you
talked
have,
about, one of the things that I'm proposing with our elementary principal
Robotics.
is starting elementary UIL. So participating in elementary UIL.
Yeah, there's a whole game.
they have a bunch of special groups
That
at
may be,
Arthur.
that may be
I don't know.
That would count.
There's
I know,
STEM,
no,
there's
we've
all
got,
kinds of groups.
KYA and MBA as far as the basketball and football and cheerleaders and all that. And I don't know, would that count
not school
toward that?
sponsored.
That's not school
You have
sponsored.
to make that choice on if it's gonna count or not. They didn't, I wanted to have that count, but again, they didn't want it, they wanted to be at school, because they said, they said that the kids, the very kids who need to be involved, their parents aren't taking them to a place where they belong. Awanas or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or, yeah, Youth Athletic Association, is that what that was?
Yes.
Okay, and so that was the one that was the hardest, that was the slowest moving, was the elementary level, and you should see all of the clubs that they have club time during the day. They're counting Genius Hour as, special
And the
item.
elementary has art club.
Yeah.
They
have
have,
to find
they
a
have
way to
several,
do it.
yeah, they have several.
Part of it is I'm worried about teachers having to set aside more time to give to the kids to go to these clubs. Or is that gonna be something that's gonna be an after-school?
No school.
You have to make your mind up. Is it important for kids to belong to something other than reading, writing, math, science, and social studies? And if you believe that, then you make a way for it to happen, and it may be a science club.
Well, I'm kind of prejudiced because I was over the Miniature Basketball Association. And part of my goal with that was that this was the one chance, or for a lot of those kids, to be a participant in an athletic.
Yeah.
And to find out whether or not they wanted to be in athletics past this point. So,
And break their heart that they're not gonna be in the NBA one of these days?
yes. But part of the NBA goal was all kids got to participate. Part of it, they said the rules were set where you had to play. And you had to play, you know, at least 3 quarters before anybody could play a 4th quarter. So it was one of those things that a lot of these kids, that was their only sport or group thing that they did.
So you have to decide if that's important for you, and then the next part is how do you measure it? So.
And there's lots of districts around here that are doing it, so we're not reinventing the wheel. We could easily search around and find what does it look like at their campus and how they're measuring it and what they're doing to provide those resources.
Well, even Arthur does Genius Hour once a week. I mean, they put it into their schedule, so I mean, they're right.
That's
You know, it's
still
just-
an hour that's taken away from that teacher, and that teacher saying, I need to do all these things to get them to 3rd grade reading level and writing level.
You could argue that, though, that
How
it's giving
important is
back to that child that's able to
Right.
go further.
Okay.
And Mrs. Mock could probably give you, I know, I'm gonna put you on the spot. She's our elementary counselor, and she could probably tell you, we probably have 15 to 20 within the school day of extracurricular. We have a
And
lot.
our GT teacher does pull daily, she has Genius Hours. So, our babies are getting fed like that as well, sorry, our students, are
So we
getting fed
would
that
be
way as well.
hurting it.
But we have tons of little minutes we could pull, that we could, they all add up.
Why don't we include that and then start looking at, you know, what's there?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that that's a part of our students that we can't neglect. I mean, there are kids that are going to achieve there and that, yeah.
I'm just,
If we know it's important, then we should
And
set
it's
an
one of the
expectation.
things that we have been screaming, I know is let our kids who want to be a part. Even if they don't get to play, let them be a part. Make them feel wanted. I mean,
What gets measured improves, and what gets measured publicly through a district scorecard improves much faster.
best for, I think
So
it's good
I
for the
just,
kids.
I mean, the educational consultant says, leave your guiding statements to student outcomes, which all of those are written as outcomes. Decide how you're gonna measure it through a scorecard, and then the things that you think are burning issues right now, and I've limited it to 1 or 2, I wouldn't pile on, but if you think that there's a gap in community involvement, then give that to him as a superintendent goal. That you work on a series of, it's hard to measure how to do it, and actually it's really, here's just a list of things you're gonna do, and it's check, did I do it?
Would you suggest that the 3 additional goals that, or 2 additional, or 1 additional, whatever we write, that they not be SMART?
These, no, for your guiding statements, no.
The guiding statements. that
No,
we-
because if you look at it, SMART is specific, it's very specific on what you want to have happen. Measurable, it is measurable, it's gonna be on your scorecard. Attainable, you don't want them so far in the sky that you can't reach them, but if you want them to be a stretch. Realistic, all those are realistic, and timely, you're gonna have it on the scorecard at the time. So is that written as a SMART goal? No, but if you take that and the dashboard and the scorecard, it is SMART.
So I think the one that I proposed on the commitment 2025 was all students will have an opportunity to participate. You know, I can't remember exactly the wording of it, but all students will have opportunities, you know, in our district. And that was pretty much a guiding statement or whatever. And then how we measure that would be, you know, percentage of students that are involved in extracurricular activities, percentage of students that are involved in UIL, percentage of students involved in, you know, Genius Hour or whatever.
Now, I like that, how you added all students. That was the only thing I saw here is, right now I can look at that and go, yeah, students are doing it. But what's the expectation?
You can add
All
to
students
every
will
single one.
participate,
Yeah.
all students. Will it? No, that's where the goal comes in, but if we could say, next year, all students read at 3rd grade level and all students were at 8th grade and all students were, we would say, man, we are really servicing our.
But that's how you set up your scorecard.
Right, but I'm just saying, if I read this, if I'm a parent and I read this, I go, well, yeah, I mean, my kids, I think we don't have to put percentages here, we don't have to put numbers here, that's the score, that's where the dashboard and the scorecard comes in, but.
What if you did, I mean, I'm just, in terms of people reading it, if the first 3 words are all students, or all students and then drop down, will, I mean, is that more of
You
a,
can do
It
that.
should
more of a command than
Yeah,
simply
a little.
You can do
within the
that.
state?
You
Michael,
can look
yeah,
however you want it to.
I go back to, where it says all students will participate, that's not realistic, but if you say all students will have opportunities to participate,
Yes. You're not,
That's harder.
with just all
But
students,
that
it
makes it
seems
hard to
like
measure.
you will participate no matter what, but
So-
all students will have a chance.
The consultant,
opportunity.
Holly Teague, says,
But the goal is that they all
is
participate.
that they're gonna participate.
No, I
and
think-
they are gonna provide
right.
the opportunities.
Right.
And so, I've written for a long time, and it was probably just a couple years ago that I didn't go with have an opportunity to. I mean, it's still okay to do that, but that means that we're gonna provide it, but you don't have to take
Who cares
it.
if you do
It's
it?
like, I'm gonna provide vegetables, or, that's a bad example, I'm sorry.
Not really.
But-
These are action terms. These are active versus saying opportunities are.
And I,
Are
okay,
not
on one
active.
and two, I'm gonna tell you why I don't think you should put all, because there are students in your district who have, maybe a disability that they will read, but they may never read on level. And so, and you have to, I can tell you from my past experience that that's at 92%, because we have 1% that are dyslexic, we have 3. That there's reasons why they may not.
So you're saying for 1 and 2?
I would leave it as students. Oh, that's as students. But, and I don't know, I mean, that's semantics. If y'all wanna put
Yeah.
I think
all.
so too. I think it's implied that it's all students, that
All, yeah.
we're shooting for all
Yeah,
students.
Right.
yeah, you want that.
Right. I think students is enough.
So-
That all is implied. It's
Yeah, who doesn't qualify as a student?
Right. Right.
So that, again, educational person Holly would recommend
Four are great.
that.
Yeah, I think those are good.
And then you let them bring you, some, on that scorecard, what you want is annual targets, and then hold her accountable for,
What they said.
I don't want it to be, I want us to be able to reach it and a little bit more.
So the purpose for tonight and the goal for this hour session was to sit there and get our goals mapped out so that we have the goals, and then we'll start working on some measurements of ways to measure those that will show those, okay? But at least now we have goals that we can go off of. And for that commitment 2025 on that strategic plan, these are the 4 goals that we're gonna be striving towards. And then
So we still have to do our,
everybody good with those 4?
I'm good with the 4.
Okay, so I gotta change, I just made your excellence. Commitment 2025, guidance
We are
statements.
committed to excellence, but
Yeah, I just. So what else?
You had some other slides, the mission, vision, all that, and
Yeah,
I've got
you're
stuff
working on
here.
that, yeah.
We're working on that, and I've got some documents here, and are you finished with yours?
I'm done.
If we're good with the goals,
I'm gonna
I
sit
think that
down.
pretty much accomplished that.
That's big.
I'm gonna pass this out to you. This is the stuff that I've been working on with our staff and getting their input. I've asked 6 questions. Pass those down. Oh, yeah, I have one for you also. It's a lot to read, so there's no way I want to read it all right here. I'm just giving it to you for your nighttime, if you want to go to sleep.
So is
Hope you
this
go
like
to
a
sleep.
just a
Trying to
synopsis
check-
of
This is a
most?
synopsis of what,
thing to
from each
check,
campus
so-
meeting, whatever, the first question I asked is, what is your why? The second question is, what should KISD's why be? The next question was, what are your core educational values? So it says your values, but it's core educational values. And then, what should KISD's core educational values be? And the last question, what are your beliefs? And basically, if you're kind of thinking between a value and a belief, they're very similar. I would relate it to this, that the values are the traits that you want to embody, and the beliefs are what you do to put it in action. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? And as you're reading through this, start thinking about your answers to these questions. And then we're gonna be doing this with our education, our executive committee also, leadership group. And then we will also do community meetings. Okay, same thing.
I like it.
Okay? And then from that, hopefully we can develop the core values, core beliefs, and a mission statement that actually rings true to everybody. I think we have a vision statement. Is everybody pretty much okay with committed to excellence?
Yes.
Okay. So now it's just using this to start formulating the core values, core beliefs, and from that, our vision statement, our mission statement. Okay. And once that's done, we will have that document finalized. And that'll probably be the next work session that we do that.